because I'm going to have to say this term as the episode goes on, and you will watch me physically getting closer to the point of collapse. Like by the end of this episode, I'm going to be like, like I can't, like I'm dying. Like,
I'm going to be holding you up with the lasso.
Okay, now I'm stuck. Hang on. I'm trying not to take down these wires. I have wires under here that I'm trying. Welcome to the new and improved. This is Jen. And the improved part comes in. We have so many improvements. We have Shady Ray producing. Shady, so delighted that you are here. We also have bonus episodes available on Patreon. I do special episodes only for Patreon subscribers. I have already gone into there things that I legally cannot say publicly. So that is fun. I hadn't even seen that advantage of Patreon. I could say so many things that it's like, well, I could end up in court if I put this out on YouTube, but I say it on Patreon, and it's just fun. And yeah, right, exactly. It's just fun. And then I can have private conversations. Patreon.com/thisisjen. The other improved part is that this podcast is available now on YouTube. And what I like about the YouTube component is that it's underground. This is an underground YouTube podcast, and it's in my plan. You may have noticed if you tried to look up this podcast that it was not easy, that you typed in Jennifer Fulweiler and you found a bunch of atheist hate videos from like 2000. When was that? When was I beefing with atheists? That was 2011. I got in some big beefs with like PZ Myers and some of these big atheists, Amanda Marcotte. And so people would make hate videos about me on YouTube. And so if you search for my name, that's a lot of what comes up. Not this page, but the hating on Jennifer Fulweiler is a lot of what comes up. And it's part of my strategy. See, I've had this strategy. I keep uploading these videos in the wrong technical format, which is getting me suppressed in the algorithm. And you could say, so you're an idiot, Jen. That's what I'm like, get your act together with your YouTube channel. But no, I like it. I like it because doesn't it feel shady? Like kind of only hipsters listen to this. Like, you follow like Joe Rogan with his millions of followers. Well, that's, okay, if you want to sell
Enjoy that.
Right, if you want to be mainstream, I guess.
Have fun with that.
Yeah, no, I follow Jen Fulweiler. And, like 5 people can actually find her YouTube account and watch it because she got herself repeatedly is taking steps to get herself suppressed.
I feel like having the hate videos come up first, like that kind of is like, that's like a flex. Legitimate. They hate me because they ain't me kind of thing.
Right. Atheist YouTube, you hate me because you ain't me. That's what it is. That's what I should do. I should start a beef with them.
There you go. Again, reopen the beef.
Yeah, when they tag my page or something, and then I'll actually come up. We have a topic of the day that I'm en fuego about this one. So you just, if you're like thinking about skipping or closing this podcast, no, you want to stick with me for this. But I will just say, I deleted my old YouTube page because that was coming, like the wrong YouTube page was coming up in the algorithm. My only regret with that is that fully 95% of the comments on that page were just hate because a couple of the big atheists way back in the day linked to me. And so it was all of these 14-year-olds who were like mad at me. And I don't know if they were 14. I'm just imagining. It was all of these kids who were mad at me and like, there is no God. You're an idiot. You believe in fairy tales. But then they would get personal. Like, I forget what all they said, but it was really personal. It was really hateful. And, sometimes people are like, I get a lot of hate. And you look at their comments and it's like one rando within it. But I mean, fully 98% of the comments on my old YouTube page were all these haters. Because, like my suburban parent fans were not big YouTube users back in that day. So it was like all atheist YouTube. It was good times. It was fun. And I just have to say, I love being suppressed in the algorithm because it keeps us a small community.
You're humbled.
Right. Yeah. So you guys keep leaving comments.
You don't need to get too famous.
Right. No, because I don't want that.
You don't need that.
I don't need Joe Rogan just signed $100 million deal with Spotify. What am I going to do with $100 million? I don't care. No,
I can think of a lot of stuff.
Look, I've made like 8 cents on my YouTube page, and that's enough for me.
Wow.
What you know?
You can
I can invest that.
Bubble gum? Piece of bubble gum?
Yeah, no, you can't. You can't
Could you not
buy
do that
anything with
anymore?
that. But
Oh man.
but you know what? I have my artistic integrity.
And
that's
it.
Joe Rogan has $100 million in a Spotify deal, and I have artistic integrity.
That's touching.
So it all balances out. So you guys keep leaving comments, because I've been saying, because YouTube thinks I'm a bot. But what I didn't realize is while you guys were doing yeoman work, leaving comments to signal to YouTube that I am legit, I was balancing out your efforts by uploading videos with the wrong technical format. So if we work together, we can make sure that no one discovers this page. Let's move. This is my life. Let's move on to the topic of the day. I want to say that I warned you. I warned you on Instagram that me, without corporate censorship, without bosses who I report to, me unfiltered, it's going to be a learning experience for all of us. We're all finding out where the limits are in terms of subject. And this is one of those episodes where we're all going to learn together. So this is a PG-13 episode. If you're listening to this with your children in the car, like you just finished the family rosary and you're turning on my podcast, this ain't the one. Come back to this one when you can listen without the kids around. I do try to keep the podcast pretty clean. I know people have kids in the background. I in order to make my points, I just have to go into PG-13 territory. As my masterminding of my career continues, one of the other things I planned just so perfectly, just like I planned for my page to not come up on a search for my name on YouTube, is my comedy special comes out in November. And that's, and I intentionally held up the process. There was originally an August release date. August, when people are thinking about the topics that I'm talking about. And I was like, no, let's hold all of this up and let's see if we can get a November 2020 release date for a comedy special, because that's what people want. And so I said, okay, if it has to be November, let's push it as late in November as we can. So we have a later November release date. But I didn't understand that pre-release things happen before the official release date. Shady feels a sense of foreboding. That's a foreboding laugh. I just got word that some very important, career making or breaking pre-release elements begin 2 weeks before the release. And so I Googled presidential election, United States 2020. And do you want to guess what coincides with the release of my stand-up comedy special? Why, yes, the United States presidential election. So I think, and I planned all this. I planned it. I'm a mastermind. Quitting my job during a pandemic, uploading my YouTube videos the wrong way, getting myself suppressed in the algorithm, doing the pre-release of my comedy special on the actual day of the U.S. election.
Beautiful.
I'm a genius. You know what? You know where I'm going to make my millions? Is in career consulting. Billions. I need to be a career consultant. But so it's part of my strategy, because I think that while your city is burning down around you, and while there are riots and our country is descending into civil war, I think that you will really enjoy my humor. I think that you will enjoy my comedy when you and your family escape to a cave, which is the only safe place left in this country. You're going to want some entertainment. You can get maybe some sort of satellite link to Netflix or to Amazon or wherever, and you can watch my special. Okay, I don't think it'll be on Netflix, but wherever it is you watch, I don't know where it's going to be distributed. You will need some entertainment in the post-apocalyptic times that our country is about to descend into. So it's all part of the plan. But here's the real point that I want to get to. As part of the marketing for this comedy special, I have seen thrown around from multiple sources. Multiple people have said this, and some people who are giving me advice who they're not officially working with me, but they'll help me with marketing and placement. I keep hearing my stand-up comedy special and just the comedy that I do in general, I keep hearing it referred to as momedy. Get it? Like comedy, but for momedy. Do you know, I wish you could see the look on Shady's face. Do you know this term?
No, I don't.
Shady.
Can we throw it away? Can we put it in the trash?
If you were to spend a decade of your life doing nothing but trawling the English language for words, could you find a word more condescending than momedy?
I can't even think about it.
Would you believe me when I tell you it's in the official description that will be out there in official...
No,
I know. Would you believe me when I tell you I put it there?
No.
Because someone said that I should, and now I regret it, and I shouldn't have said that. I hate myself for it. I hate myself.
You're fired.
I'm fucking right now. I mean, if we have not proven that I need to be fired
to get up and
from
leave.
managing my own career, I mean, how many apocalyptic mistakes do I have to make? I was like, I can quit my job. I'll be on tour in the fall 2020. It's when the big tour is happening. I can quit my job. I'll have income.
It's all it's all happening.
Oh yeah, it's all coming together. So Shady agrees. If we searched the English language, we couldn't find a more condescending term than momedy. And you as, because I'm going to have to say this term as the episode goes on, and you will watch me physically getting closer to the point of collapse. Like by the end of this episode, I'm going to be like, like I can't, like I'm dying. Like
I'm going to be holding you up with the lasso.
Okay, now I'm stuck. Hang on. I'm trying not to take down these wires. I have wires under here that I'm trying not to like.
And the table's not exactly sturdy.
Right. No, I know. So it's a card table that I got at Target. It's not actually I can't even shake it. Like I'll break everything.
On wood.
But so this is what the term momedy reduces me to. Falling off of my own podcast. It's not my fault. It's the fault of the people who call my stand-up comedy momedy.
Why can't it just be comedy, guys?
Okay, and here's the thing. So even people who are like pro the type of genre that I'm in, I need to start like spiking my own drink with like putting drugs in my own drink to talk about this stuff. Even people who are trying to be on my side of things, they sometimes get into this way of thinking. They might not, God forbid, use the word momedy. But there is this thing that happens, even among people who they're into family stuff and supporting moms and all that, where if a woman has children, you focus on that to the exclusion of anything else she's doing. Like she could be a nuclear scientist who took a break from her work, finding new ways to split the atom, to create one pill that you can take that cures Ebola, AIDS, and coronavirus, all in one pill. But if she has one child, it's like she's a mom. She's a mom, and she did a couple of other things, but you know, she's a mom. And here's the thing. I understand that this is a well-meaning thing. I agree that being a mom is the most sacred job. It is a sacred duty. And I do think that we have, you know, should I combine my Catholic theology with my random theories about evolutionary psychology? I think I will. So on the theology side of things, we know the sacredness of the role of mother. And then on the 2 million years of human evolution side of things, we know that humans have been designed and we have evolved to want to emphasize the primacy of the role of the mother, because your species is not going to survive if the moms are checked out. Am I losing people? You know how you have the bird? Okay, so in episode 35 or 36, we established the producer bird call. Yeah, right. Is that
was
what
that bird like enough?
Right. Yeah, that's good, because you had one that was more. It sounded.
Like,
yeah, it sounded
like
you were being attacked.
Yeah,
right.
we don't need that.
No,
we don't need that.
Just if I'm losing people, if I get too deep into evolutionary psychology as it relates to people
Just
calling my show momedy,
yeah,
just let me know, because I think people are with us.
I feel with you.
Good. We have a need, and it's a good thing, to encourage women to see motherhood as a sacred duty, because it gets really bad for new human life when women start to blow off the sacredness of motherhood. So I get what people are doing. I understand why people take a situation where they say, well, yes, that one woman did defeat that warlord who was committing genocide on his people, but she's a mom. Let's talk about that first. I get it. You're trying to emphasize the sacredness of motherhood, and that is an important thing. But we want to be very careful with this, especially as people who value family and motherhood and all that. We're shooting ourselves in the foot with this, because it's a half step from that to calling someone's fire stand-up comedy special momedy. And that's dangerous for you. Say that in my presence. And that's dangerous for you, even though I wrote it myself, because I'm such a sellout. I put it in the description that's going out there. But it matters, because when we take this area of life, motherhood, and we make it seem like such an aberration that we have to comment on it and definitively label everything a woman does based on it, we make motherhood seem like something that is not normal for women to do. And that is what you see with this momedy label. If I were a single woman, I could say my hobby is I like to hang glide while eating ham sandwiches, and people would say that's a really random example, but people would say, okay, that's comedy. She's just a comic who's doing comedy. The minute that you indicate that you have offspring as a woman, boom, immediately, this is momedy, it's niche, it's mom stuff, it's mom humor, this must be for the ladies, this must be for the moms, because people see this as such an unusual and unique choice that a woman would make to become a mom. And when we, as people who, again, like we like family values, we want to support moms and families and that sort of thing, when we fuel that, when we buy into that, we are supporting a culture that says that it's not normal for women to become moms. And this impacts our daughters. This is the culture our daughters are growing up in. And let me tell you how weird that gets and how psychologically stressful it gets for them. The upshot of this is we have a generation of women who live in a constant state of stress about being female. When we make it seem like motherhood is this unusual choice that a woman would make, so unusual that we have to comment on it and we have to define all of her work that she does through the lens of motherhood, we make women feel uncomfortable with their fertility. We make them feel uncomfortable in their own bodies, because it makes it seem like this fundamental thing that your body does is this crazy and unnatural choice that is henceforth going to define every single thing that you do. And the society around you will discount anything else you put out there and primarily define you as a mom. And women are afraid of that. And therefore, it makes them afraid of their body's most basic function. And worst of all, it makes them buy into stupid secular ideas. For example, the Women's March. I haven't talked about that in a while. I guess we have a few months until it rolls around. People are like, Jen, you're always talking about women's issues, women's causes. Are you going to the Women's March? No. Are you kidding me? Like, say something interesting Have some reasonable ideas. Do something that's actually empowering of women. Yes, I'll be at the Women's March. The best example I can think of the crisis that modern women live in today is the fact of what of what women wear at this march. You know what they wear. You know what they wear. I can't even, I'm not going to say. I'm not going to label it. Not because I don't have bosses anymore. I could say it's a type of hat. It's a vulgar term for the female anatomy. And women are supposedly reclaiming this term by calling their hats this. It's a blank hat. And I'm avoiding saying the word, not because I'm a prude or not because I can't say it with my YouTube channel that no one even can find, and my podcast. I can say whatever I want. It's just that if I were to say the name of it, I would have to cut out my tongue. And then that would make,
that would be,
that's just bad for podcasting. It's just not good. They wear these hats that are named after and sort of vaguely look like a certain part of the female anatomy. Tell me this is not a generation of women who are terrified of their own anatomy. You know what we do at Halloween? We dress up. What is the traditional Halloween costume? What are some traditional Halloween costumes?
A lot. Freddy Krueger.
Zombies.
Witches.
Okay. So do you see a theme here? These are skeletons, zombies, witches. At Halloween, we dress up. Why do we dress up? The informal tradition that our society has developed is that dressing up is a way to exorcise our fears. I don't mean exercise like, you've got your 80s sweatband on. I mean exercise like exorcism, like get out, to release. Dressing up is a way to release our fears about that which we are terrified of. And so the terror about ghosts and goblins and death and what's on the other side, we work all of that out at Halloween by dressing up as these things. We feel utterly out of control when it comes to these terrifying things in the world. And so we wear costumes to feel like we have some tiny shred over control of it because we can turn it into a costume and wear it on our face, wear it on our heads. And so it is with these hats that are like a certain part. They're meant to look like a certain part of a woman's anatomy. Jen, are you going to the Women's March? Oh, yeah. Why would I not want to go to that? Why would I not want to go to that? Because it seems like the women are doing really well because they are taking a part of their anatomy and wearing it on their head. That's a generation of women that's doing just fine. All of their ideology has worked out super well. Men don't do this. This is where I told you this was a PG-13 episode. If you skip the beginning and you have kids in the car, you're about to regret it. Men don't do this. Can you imagine? Imagine a bros march for the bros. And a guy is like, bro.
Dude.
I'm headed down. I'm headed down to the bros march. Have you seen my Scrota hat?
Oh, yeah.
You can't imagine that.
No,
it wouldn't happen. Men don't wear, where's my penile hat? They don't do that. Why don't they do that? Because they're comfortable with that part of their anatomy.
Mm-hmm.
You only wear it on your head if you're uncomfortable with it. And then women, secular feminists, they'll have like an outline of the uterus, of their uteri, as their social media profile pictures. I see these women on Twitter. It'll be like a uterus outline.
We've all got a uterus. Calm down.
You know what I'm not going to make my Twitter profile picture? A thumb. I'm not going to do that because I'm comfortable with having a thumb. Now imagine if you see me on social media. My profile picture is a thumb. I'm wearing a thumb hat. I'm wearing a thumb shirt. And I'm just sitting on Twitter all day long. I'm sitting on Twitter all day long, like, because I like having a thumb. I do. I love it, and I'm empowered by my thumbs. Look at them; they're right here. Look at my profile picture. If you missed it, it's a thumb. I've got thumbs. My other women in my Wiccan group, like in my Wiccan, what's it, Coven?
Coven.
Mm-hmm. The other women in my Wiccan coven, they have thumbs. We all have thumbs, and we love it, and we're comfortable with it. And look at my T-shirt and my hat. We love having thumbs.
Thumbs rock.
If you saw that, would your take be, Jen is comfortable having thumbs? She really is. I mean, she loves it, and that's why it's all she can ever talk about, because she has peace in this area of life. You know, when you do see men doing this, I said this was a PG-13 podcast. Are you familiar with truck nuts? That's a thing. You guys think I'm making this up. You guys, Europeans and people from places like Boston and Maine and Seattle, you think I'm making this up. But there is a certain garniture that gentlemen, I hate to stereotype, but let's face it, it's only in the South. You know,
It's true.
No one in Connecticut has truck nuts on their Prius. It just doesn't.
It's a very hold my beer Texas kind of thing to do.
Very much. Well, and let's not leave Alabama and Mississippi out of this. No one has ever, you know who, like, imagine Winston Churchill having truck nuts. Abraham Lincoln, like, yeah, his covered wagon, the wagon, the horse-drawn carriage, it had truck nuts because he was just that much of a man. Like Malcolm X, you know. He did a lot of walking. He was originally based in New York City, but he had a pole that he would hang truck nuts from because he had to let everyone know what a bro he was, what a man he was. Just in case. So, if you've ever seen this, if you've ever had the misfortune of seeing this, you have, right?
Yes.
Yes. So, if you're in the South,
they swing around. It's funny.
Funny is one word. If you've ever seen this, your reaction is not, that's a man who's comfortable with his masculinity. That's a real man. He's just got everything set. And that's a guy who's at peace. I had to follow a guy. I couldn't pass this truck. It was a 1-lane road. And I just see this object swinging. It's like moving from the back of his truck. And I had to follow it. And my thought was not, he's at peace. He's at peace. This guy is fine. He's doing just fine. No. And it's the same thing with these hats. These let's call them P hats, to use the first letter from this term. These P hats are the female equivalent of truck nuts. And why do we have every year now it's a yearly tradition. Why do I have to see a measurable percentage of my friends on Instagram wearing these hats? Why do I have to see their 5-year-old daughters wearing the hats? Why do I have to be, oh yes. Why do, I was in New York for the last one. And why did I have to see all of these women walking around with these hats on? Because people use the term momedy too often. That's what it is. That's what led to this.
Wow.
And someone is going to say, well, Jen, we're doing hats about that part of our anatomy and not thumbs because the laws impact that part of our anatomy. Well, colon cancer runs in my family. My dad and my grandmother both had it. I don't like some of the laws regarding health care as it impacted their care, but I'm not wearing a sphincter hat. So that is not a valid argument. I don't want to hear it. This is a symptom of a generation of women who they're not comfortable with their bodies. And the reason, there are actually a few reasons, but one of the reasons that they are not comfortable with their bodies is because we live in a culture that makes motherhood an aberration. Because we live in a culture that says, if you have offspring, the very second that child comes into the world, everything you do will be defined by this. And we see this as so unusual that you could just spit hot fire for a whole hour on your stand-up comedy special. You could even have a spreadsheet, theoretically, where you worked out this material that shows irrefutably that you have 3.7 laughs per minute. You could even have that. And you could compare it to Netflix specials that have like 3.5, 3.6 laughs per minute. And if you have even one child, people will call it momedy. And you might even end up calling it momedy because you're a sellout who doesn't care anymore and makes nothing but bad decisions in your career. So this is a change I would love to see in the comedy industry. I was at a comedy club, and this guy went up before me, and he did a typical set. And then I went up and I did my set. And I did amazingly well, considering that I don't swear. I'm usually one of the only women. So I do, I don't like to say clean comedy. I say primetime comedy, meaning it could be like on Fallon.
Seems hard.
Or, it's like, it's not, because I wouldn't listen to something labeled clean comedy, but I don't swear and I don't go into graphic sex stuff. And, it's hard to get laughs when you have followed someone who is doing all that, especially as a woman. But I did well. I got laughs and it was good. And the manager person afterwards said, that was a really good set. You did really well. She said it's niche. I mean, your topics are niche, but it's good. And she stopped us short of saying momedy. The gentleman before me, who I had seen, he had been talked about as like he's a comic, just classic comedy. I say again, it's a PG-13. I just, in case people are skipping, I just keep giving these content warnings. I just have to tell you what he was talking about so that you know what I deal with this path that I'm trying to forge and this battle that I am single-handedly trying to fight here. The gentleman before me, after he finished a bit about smoking weed, he talked about having a liaison. Well, let's bring foreign language into it. A menage a trois, if you will.
Okay.
And the setup was like his cat was in the room and he was imagining what his cat's thoughts must have been. So that's not niche. That's mainstream, good old-fashioned comedy. I went up there and I had some jokes. The premise was going to like a mandatory parent information session, and it was like the tension of having to do these things as a parent that are really not necessary, what you do to get through them, that sort of thing. So the setup is suburban stuff, mandatory parent information meetings, driving a minivan, things like that. So that's niche. Nobody can relate to that. We have to give that a special label because nobody can expand their mind to imagine. It would be like trying to imagine life on Venus. What would that planet's so hot? What would that even look like? We don't know. We can't imagine it. And that is the comedy industry with me and my minivan jokes. It's just so niche. No one's ever, what even is a minivan? We don't know. It's niche. It's niche. We need to have a guy. Can we get someone talking about being on Tinder and having a menage a trois in front of his cat? Because that's what mainstream is. That's what real comedy is. And Jen, what you're doing is niche. It's momedy. So, when we're done with all the other riots, I would like to propose that we start some riots about that. If we're going to be doing this, if that's the thing, I would like to lead a few riots on that because... Well, actually, it's going to be a good time. I mean, the pre-orders for my special start on election day. You can't make this stuff up.
Oh, my gosh.
Actual election day. So I'll just join everyone else rioting. Like, we have a lot of issues. Can this be like a multifaceted riot? Because I'll hold, like we each get 3 signs of what we're rioting about. Because I feel like if we could coordinate our efforts, maybe we could get it over with more quickly. Like let's all riot. And then we each get 3 signs of like the 3 primary causes that we're there to support.
I like this.
And I'm going to put the word momedy with a circle around it and a...
No.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I don't even know, but by the way, I have not checked with my record label. to ask if I can announce any of this. So it's a good thing that my YouTube channel is suppressed in the algorithm, and I don't think they've found the audio podcast yet. So nobody will ever hear about this. We've got to stop defining women who have children by motherhood alone. We can recognize that being a mom is the most important job in the world. I don't even like to say that, by the way, because I don't like to conflate motherhood with job, with work in any way. I think motherhood is too sacred for that. And comparing it to being a street sweeper or a sewage irrigator, you kind of do all that as a mom, but it's way more sacred. It's way more sacred than any kind of paid job. So I don't even like to say motherhood is the most important job in the world, because it's like so important you don't even say that. So we can validate the sacredness of motherhood without making it seem like this strange, unusual thing that utterly defines anything else that you contribute in the world. And we need to stop doing that so that women will stop living in a state of mania discomfort about their bodies, and I can stop seeing women wear these stupid hats. That's what matters to me, and I think that we can all get on board with this. Now, Shady, we are transitioning to calls. A banner day. Banner day. Here at This Is Jen, we can finally play calls. However, if we could just have a little chat. Friends, folks. So... Shady knows what I'm going to say. The idea behind having a call-in number, which is, I still don't have it memorized, 512-222-3523. The idea behind it is that we could play the calls on the air. Shady, you as producer of this fine program, you reviewed the calls that we got. What percentage said that we couldn't play them on the air?
Like 80% of them.
Seriously. Okay, so it's not that I don't spend days and days preparing for each one of these episodes, but I was setting up the studio and I said, Shady, could you just listen? We have a bunch of calls and I'm really excited about this. So could you just, I don't have time to listen to every single one and choose a couple. So could you do it? And Shady came back into the studio with the look on her face of a child who went out to the Easter egg hunt but didn't find any eggs.
No eggs.
She was like, they all said I can't. They said I can't play it on the air.
Yeah,
I don't know what.
And they were saying funny stuff. And so it's
right. Oh, I know.
You listen for like 2 minutes, and then they're like, but don't use this.
Right. Yeah, because Shady would get all excited, like, oh, this person is so smart. She's so funny. You're so lucky to have these kinds of calls. And then it's like, yeah, but don't play this on the air.
You're like, oh.
What do you got? I mean, look, I like hearing from you. Oh, and by the way, people are surprised. I text you guys back. You text me at 512-222-3523. And they're like, is that really? It is. Yes, because Google Voice connects it to your like actual Gmail Google account. So I thought I might get some help with it, but I actually can't without giving out like my personal whole Google. So it's really me. Like you text me, it's like me that replies. Okay, so we have a couple. I want to thank John. John from Maryland. Thank you. So John called in to Scat. In the very first episode, episode 35, you can look it up. Well, the very first episode of the new and improved, the relaunched This Is Jen. It's the first one we put on YouTube. Episode 35. It was the first one Shady was involved in. How did Scat come up?
You said you didn't have an intro. You asked me for ideas, and I just said scatting.
Yes. And now I thought scat was a term for suddenly and forcefully losing control of your bowels. And that was the episode where I learned on the air that scat means you get scat for us. Yeah. And if you like me didn't know what scat meant, when I just said Shady scat, you were probably like, wow, this podcast is about to get super weird. Super weird. So John from Maryland called into scat. And this is the first call we've played on the air. Let's see if this actually works.
This is John from Pelican City, Maryland. I just thought I'd scat for you, Jen.
And we can play it on the air.
Yes.
If he were like the other callers, he would do that and be like, don't play this on the air, and
play
then
it.
hang up. Who else do we have
That was a fire scat. He was seasoned.
Okay, you know what I'm learning? I will never get used to the word scat, because when you just said fire scat, I'm giggling. I'm 13, I guess.
He's a seasoned scatter.
That was an explosive scat. I just, I'm too immature for this. Shady, one more call. Teresa from Missouri, also a call we can play on the air. This is so exciting.
Hey, Jen, this is Teresa from Missouri. I'm listening to a bunch of your podcasts, trying to catch up, and I'm loving it. Great job.
So there are a couple others that we can play on the air. They go into more detailed subject matter, that they're so detailed. So people are bringing in some pretty detailed stories that we're just going to make a whole segment out of them.
Yeah, just clips, pieces.
Just address them on the air, yeah. So I will get to those calls. If you would like to call me, it doesn't have to be something for me to play on the air, but it would be nice. It would be great. Yeah, if there's something that you want to contribute.
That would make my day.
Because you guys are killing me, because you're being really funny, and then you're like, but don't play it. 512-222-3523. I want to end with an update that those of you who have been listening for a while know. The power of my gratitude journal knows no bounds. In a previous episode that you can look it up, I think I titled it, I Just Ruined Your Gratitude Journal. I talked about how I was trying to do this whole be positive thing. Everyone says, Jen, you're cynical and you always have negative takes, and you always think that everything's terrible. Why don't you try gratitude journaling? So my naive self did this, and it was at the beginning of 2019. I don't even feel like I should lay this out for you guys, because if you missed it, I have a lot of new listeners to the audio podcast. I have a lot of new viewers on YouTube. I need to spare you guys from this, because it would freak you out if you knew what I listed in that journal and how one by one every single thing was taken out of my life. It would freak you out. So what I learned is that the evil eye has access to my gratitude journal. And so I've actually been thinking that I could spin this. This could be another income opportunity for me. This could be an income opportunity that so if you have someone that you want to seek vengeance on, or if there's something that you want out of your life, Venmo me a couple $100. I will be grateful for it in my gratitude journal, and it will be gone. You know what I should do? I should start writing in my gratitude journal, I'm just grateful for coronavirus.
Oh my gosh.
I love my kids who go to high school. I love virtual school. I love Zoom. I love Zoom calls. I just, thank you. I'm filled with abundance and with joy for coronavirus and for virtual school. I can't get enough of it.
Wearing my mask all the time.
Wearing masks. I love it. I love it so much. All of it would end in 2 months. So I just want to update you, because this is a fixation of mine. You know this is true. If you listened to my radio show, before I quit my job that provided benefits for my whole family, and a full-time salary at SiriusXM.
No big deal.
I was going to tour in the fall. I was like, coronavirus will be out by then. I'm amazing I'm going into life coaching. That's what I'm doing. So, that when I would talk about the fact on that show, I would say that I struggled with gratitude. And one of my go-to things, and I actually felt like I talked about it too much. One of my go-to things was that I was like, okay, one thing I can be grateful for is we have this app that controls our thermostat. And I know it sounds silly, but it's such a nice thing. It's such a convenience that, especially as someone, I am always very cold. Shady knows this. It'll be 80 degrees in my house and I'm freezing. And it causes me physical pain. And so to be able to control the temperature of my house from my phone. I just brought it up all the time because honestly, I just wasn't creative enough to think of better examples of just something. It's like a stable thing. I mean, it's not like anything would ever happen. Could you hum ominous music? Yeah. It's not like anything would ever happen to my app that controls the temperature of my house because it just works. It's just an app. Okay, update on that. So I reference that all the time. That's like the one solid thing I can be grateful for because it's not going to go away. It's like being grateful for the sun rising. Nothing's going to happen to that. My husband decided to upgrade our thermostat. And Nest has a thing. It's like they've coordinated with Google. And Google is great because they own YouTube now that I think about it. And they search with their, like, they can tell what you're saying on your YouTube channel, like it's that big brother.
We love Google.
So I was just about to say Google does not ruin everything they touch.
So
they don't just keep like buying these businesses and then ruining them or shutting them down. It is a great company.
Yes, we love
that
them.
I support. I love it. I can't get enough of this company. And so I love it that they made the Nest app not work. So my husband can control the thermostat through his app, but I can't. What? Do you understand the imbalance of power that this brings to our household? That my husband can control the thermostat and I can't. And I have to ask him, I have to come to him like Oliver Twist, hat in hand. He was a poor kid, right?
I think so.
Hat in hand. Please, sir, please, might we change the temperature up a bit? And I always had to be sneaky.
Just a couple notches, please.
just a notch or two, if you please, sir. If you please.
Half degree. Anything.
And I would always, when I had control of the app, I would always be kind of sneaky, like just crank it all the way up because like I'm cold, and make it like 80 degrees. And my husband is the exact opposite. He wants it at like 65 degrees. He wants snowflakes dropping from the ceiling, and so I'd like crank it all the way when he wasn't looking. And now it's a negotiation. I'm in like I have to be like the Wolf of Wall Street.
Barter with
just, like I've got to do like pull out my negotiation techniques, like you're supposed to ask people questions, to get in with negotiations. So like, what do you think the temperature should be? I think it's a whole thing. It's a whole, you got to barter. You've got to haggle.
You need a
you've
contract
got to beg,
already.
You've got to plead. This all, and it's all, I can't tell you, this isn't even a bit. This isn't shtick. I can't tell you how freaked out I am. This was my go-to gratitude thing. When people are like, Jen, your bit about the evil eye, your gratitude journal. Oh, yeah, I actually made the statement that it caused coronavirus because I was grateful for my stand-up comedy tour. I'm that crazy.
You're like, yoink, gotta take that away.
Right. I'm that crazy that, I would blame, like, genocide on my gratitude journal. Like, there's nothing, and I realize I need help. I know. So, and people would say, okay, Jen, that's a funny bit, but really, you should find things to be grateful for. And occasionally I would listen to that. And I would say, okay, well, I do have the app that controls the thermostat. Nothing could happen to that. And it really freaks me out that I don't have that anymore. And someone's going to leave a comment that I will be grateful for, but someone is going to leave a comment on YouTube saying, well, why don't you just walk downstairs? Why don't you just walk downstairs? You can control it manually. That's a specious argument. No. Okay, you know what? That's like saying if you had a plumbing issue in your house, and I was like, just get an outhouse. Just get a bucket in your yard. What, people have done that, but for all of human history. Like, people didn't have indoor plumbing until like 100 years ago. Some people not even 50 years ago. Just get an outhouse. Get a jar in your backyard. Out in the country, like my mother-in-law, country woman, they used corn cobs. They didn't even have toilet paper. Get that? Why can't you get that? You putting a bucket and some corn cobs in your backyard in lieu of indoor plumbing is like me walking downstairs to change my thermostat. It's not going to happen. Once you have been able to control the temperature in your house through an app, there's no going back. There's no going back. And for those of you who also have spouses that have wildly different body temperatures than yours, can you even imagine having to coordinate with your spouse, having to go through them to change the temperature in your house? I had to call my husband this morning. I had to call, first of all, like it's 1993, but he doesn't see text a lot. So I had to, hey, what do you think about turning the air up? Oh, you think it's too hot in here? Well, I thought it was too cold. I could have just done this with my app if it weren't for my gratitude journal. Join my Patreon. Patreon.com/thisisjen. Right now, it's all like I keep it at very nominal rates to get the bonus. I do bonus content there, and you can get it at very low nominal rates. One day I will add a $500 a month level. And at that level, each month I will write whatever you want in my gratitude journal. And it will solve, it will, like, if you need your house to sell, I'll be like, I'm just grateful that Sally's house hasn't sold. Because I think that she should have it for longer. And that's bringing a lot of joy in my life. And I just want to express gratitude for it. And your house will sell. I think we could move continents with this thing. The fact that I specifically was always talking about how much that app meant to me, and it's gone. I feel like there's nothing I can't do. I could sway the election. Who do you want to win the election? To join my new $500 a month Patreon level, I will be grateful for the opposing candidate in my gratitude journal, and they'll end up in a coma. Like, for sure. For sure that will happen. I think this is a good positive note to end on.
Yeah.
Shady. I feel like I have made myself seem really sane.
Yes.
And competent.
Very.
In this episode. I feel like it's been good. The bottom line really is don't say momedy. My comedy special is going to come out on election day.
Oh my goodness.
You can't. By the way, I was booked to be the first person to do stand-up comedy on the Today Show. That got canceled because of coronavirus. My career is amazing. My life is amazing. My comedy special is going to be amazing. Don't call it momedy. Don't say it's mom humor. Don't say it's just for women, because you are driving women to wear hats in the likeness of vaginas when you do things like that. And we can't have any more of that. So I want you all to stop. Buy my comedy special when it comes out. I don't have any details. Where is it available, Jen? I don't know. I don't have those details. Shady, we need to wrap this up. Like, get me out of here before I alienate more people. All right, thank you so much for joining us. Bonus episodes on Patreon, where I'm even more unhinged on Patreon. This is, no, that's not the URL. Patreon.com/thisisjen. Follow me on Instagram. I am Jennifer Fulweiler. Over there, you will see Shady's handle as well. It's kind of hard to, it's like underscore.
Yeah, it's like underscore shade tree underscore. That's all they had. There's not a lot to do.
Hallie Lord is also producing. Follow her on Instagram. And I will be back soon here on This Is Jen.